Hello everyone and welcome to the second Hey Legal Social. I'm Edith Forrest and we are live on YouTube and Twitter once again. We've had some really great feedback about our first social from last month, and this is another chance to get the legal community together and to kickstart the year in a very positive way. We have more amazing guests tonight and a packed schedule. And again, we would love for you to become involved by sending us comments or questions into the live chat if you are watching on YouTube. Thanks again to our sponsors, Workflow, Denovo, the Cash Room and Bundle Docs, and their links can be found in the description below. Tonight, we are looking at lawyers doing inspiring things. In particular, creating campaigns and content to make a positive impact. We will get an update on what is happening in Hey Legal from Ali Thompson himself. So a guest spot with Ali, so I'm looking forward to that later on. And towards the end of the show, we're going to be talking to nutritionist Natalie Blue about nutrition tips for busy lawyers. So let's get started. And to discuss inspiring campaigns and content. And we were hanging on a knife edge there, waiting to see if one of our first three guests is here. But we have our first three guests tonight are, first of all, my co-founder of Benchmark Advocates, Tommy Ross QC, Melissa Rutherford of Trauma Aware Law and Rutherford Sheridan, and Ryan McQuaig of Thornton Solicitors and Chair of Cares Scotland and board member of the Promise Scotland and Law Care. So welcome everyone. Tommy, how are you doing? We can see you're stealing the thing.
Right, sorry, I'm a bit of trouble hearing you.
Oh, are you? Can everybody else hear me? Yeah. I got your message there, Tommy. I felt I was shouting. Can you hear me now?
Try again.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, wee bit better, aye. Wee bit better.
All right. Well, hopefully you'll hear us all. And Tommy, listen, I know you're fresh in from Edinburgh, so thank you. I hope you didn't rattle along that M8, or maybe you were on the train getting back. But
both train and M8.
Don't admit to anything. No comment, Tommy. So, as I said in the introduction, we're looking at inspiring lawyers, inspiring campaigns, inspiring content. And Tommy, I think pretty much most of the legal world will have seen your very recent article in Scottish Legal News. And that was a very personal account of your background and your journey into law. And it made a huge impact, certainly on social media and round the courts. I heard people talking about it. So can you tell us a bit about writing the article and why you wrote it?
I mean, there's been a wee bit of a misconception in the sense it wasn't an article, it was an interview. You know, it was a journalist who contacted me and asked me a series of questions, and I had sort of hinted at some of the answers in previous interviews, but I decided just to put it all on the record, you know. I mean, it wasn't intentional statement. It was really just a question. I've been asked the, you know, appropriate questions by the journalist. But I mean, I did think about whether I should have been quite so candid about it all. But I took the view, well, if it helps somebody who's maybe coming from a slightly different background and think we don't belong in the legal profession, well, you know, that would be great. It doesn't harm me to tell the truth about it, you know.
Yeah, because I was thinking when I was reading it, and you're right, it was an interview, although it was kind of published and it read as an article. But I was thinking, because you took the Hey Legal quiz pretty early on, and although you kind of touched on some of these things, you obviously didn't quite go into as much detail about your early life, but you just felt that, you know, that was encouraging to some people that maybe were doubting whether they could enter the profession.
It was partly that. I mean, I've got a sister who was quite senior in the civil service, and while she was in the civil service working, I would have been a bit reluctant to talk about some of it because I don't know if she's talked about it, or I certainly wouldn't want to cause her any embarrassment, you know. So that was really part of the reason why I had never mentioned it before. But she got early retirement, so she's no longer there. Unfortunately, she read it, and you know, she was quite happy with it.
Yeah, and she seemed to have a real impact on you, Tommy. It seemed to be that she kind of looked after you and had an impact on your upbringing.
Aye.
So I suppose in a way that was a real testament to her to have spoken about it, and I'm sure she was touched by it.
Well, that was the best thing about it, because she can be, you know, at the age of sort of 14, 15, she became more like my mum than my sister, you know, and obviously that held her back in a way that she couldn't quite live a normal life, because she had to always be looking out for me and taking me places when things were kicking off. And so it was nice to be able to thank her and man, but also the people who are, you know, the Berkeley family, for example. The nicest thing, and I've had a lot of really nice comments about it, but Clive Berkeley's sister contacted me and said, you know, how touched she was by the fact that, you know, I was thanking them, and it's nice to be able to do that. I mean, not many people get the chance to do it, so it seemed to me, you know, while these questions were being asked, it was a good opportunity just to put it all out there and thank the people who helped me along the way, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think kind of putting your heart in your sleeve, opening your soul up to that, I'm sure will have had an impact on people. And I'm sure our other guests will talk about that in a minute. But have you had anyone kind of saying to you or asking you, like people that are now interested in law coming up and asking? Or
well, I got some nice emails from people, you know, who said that they had read it, people I didn't know, and you know, the Legal site was something which I had helped with before, and I linked it to them. So hopefully people who know or who have read it would feel they would be able to come to me if they thought, you know, that I could help with anything. I've got to be honest. I mean, when I was in Edinburgh, and I did feel a bit kind of exposed, you know. You know, all the people in Parliament House, you know, I would have been much more comfortable if I had been working in Glasgow, where it was my pals, and they would probably have slagged me a bit, and, you know, we would all have moved on. But there was a couple of people come up to me in Edinburgh, and I thought, you know, I've told all these people who I hardly know about my whole life, you know, and for a week it did feel a bit odd. There was I better keep this anonymous, but there was a female advocate who was making a hell of a racket in the library one day when I was trying to do a speech or a cross-examination or something, and I was just about to chin her, and she looked at me and came over and said how much she had liked the article. So I wouldn't even have known that she would have recognised me. So no, for a week or two it was really, really nice. It was quite emotional that people seemed to be sort of well, they recognised that it was just completely honest. You know?
Yeah, I think that's it. It's so kind of true and honest, and organic's a bit of a woke word, but you know, it was just you. And I think that's what we found with the Hey Legal quizzes as well. People expect lawyers, advocates, QCs to be, you know, aloof and not caring about or have nothing in common with the ordinary man in the street. And I think that not brought it down to a level, but it just made you so approachable, which you are anyway. But for those people that don't know you, it opened up an entirely new world, I'm sure. So did it have more of an impact than you ever imagined it would, Tommy?
I definitely. I mean, yeah. I thought it would have an impact, you know, because it was quite a personal thing to talk about, but it was crazy, you know, the first couple of days. Funnily enough, I was working at home. It was one of our COVID days in the trial, and somebody was away for a test. And I was working at home, and Duncan McPhee texted me and said, "Oh, I loved the article." And I thought, I've not even seen it. You know, what's he talking about? And it had got into my junk mail. So if Duncan hadn't texted me, everybody else would have been sitting reading it, and I would never have known anything about it, you know. But from that moment on, it was just text messages and from different places, and it was really nice. But it seems that nobody's talking about it quite so much in Edinburgh now. Somebody came up and congratulated me yesterday, and I was trying to work out what the hell I'd done to be congratulated for, you know. So I suppose it could only have been that article, but hopefully it'll calm down in due course.
Yeah, but no, well done, Tommy. It was really something. So Melissa, you have been busy making great progress with Trauma Aware Law. Can you tell us a bit about how you got involved in that campaign?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've always been quite vocal on social media, personally, not so much professionally until maybe 3 or 4 years ago, but always on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. And I suppose now that's turned in my favour. So Twitter's always been more for things that I'm passionate about. And that led me down a route to bump into via Twitter a certain character, Ian Smith. And that was about nearly 4 years ago. So we were tweeting the same sort of things, going to similar events. He's in Lothian and I'm in Glasgow. And he messaged me and he said something along the lines of, "All right, wee man, we need to join forces." And I was kind of bullied into it. And I said, oh well, okay, well, you're like the same things as me. We're talking about the same things, we've got the same interests, let's go for it. And basically our Twitter campaign started there. And it was all on Twitter for quite a good while. And we were messaging, we were tweeting, we were retweeting, we were sending each other messages. We were trying to kind of, I guess, gain traction in the wider kind of community. We had a lot of education, kind of health, not so much legal, people that were very interested in what we thought was really interesting, which was the impact of adverse childhood experiences and trauma. It was quite a new thing to the legal world, not a new thing overall, but a new thing to the legal world. So eventually COVID hit and we decided that we will try something different and use and utilize the platforms available, so Zoom, Teams, that sort of thing. And we managed to basically stalk people into agreeing to give us airtime. And we managed to gain some other friends along the way, and we formed the Trauma Aware Law. So there's a few lawyers, a psychotherapist, a lived experience worker, and a multi-BAFTA award-winning film director in our little crew. Oh, and a teacher now as well. So we're always open to recruitment of anyone that's got as big mouths as us. But basically we started speaking to all of the law schools in Scotland about the impact of trauma. We spoke to the Scottish children's reporters. We spoke to some panel members. We spoke to the Judicial Institute. I've spoken to Parliament. We've spoken basically anyone and everyone that would listen to us. We've managed to get some sort of meeting with. So that's really where it all began.
Amazing, and it's grown, and it's had an impact really very quickly, considering I know that it's been a number of years that you've been involved, but we've just seen the implementation of the sentencing guidelines in January. So are you pleased, Melissa, with how things have taken off? I know Ian perhaps thinks that more can be done, and that's always going to be the case. And are you happy with how things are progressing?
Obviously, we want to, change the world and have Scotland to be the kind of best, safest, and most amazing place to live, that everyone is trauma responsive and we all work holistically together. But that's not yet happened. But in, I suppose, the timelines of the Scottish legal system, we're moving quite quickly. We've managed to make some progress and really important progress. And we just hope that that will continue. There seems to have been recently, with the change in the guidelines that came in January, on the back of that, there seems to be a massive interest in the legal community about trauma. And I think people are probably fed up of listening to me and Smithy. So they're maybe like, well, maybe they do have something to say. They're still here 4 years later. So maybe they're not just complete cranks. So yeah, we're happy, but there's still loads to be done. But we are.
And you also, your group have worked with the Law Society to create the Trauma Informed Certification course. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we boldly contacted the Law Society and asked them, we found this really important information. We think all lawyers should know it. We think it should be mandatory. How are you going to help us do that? They introduced us to various law schools, and we were talking to them for about a year on and off, and they finally agreed, which was amazing, to put a certification course on for CPD, which is, I mean, that was one of the points I was nearly in tears. I was like, this is now taking shape. This is massive to the legal profession. We've done one course and completed it, and there's a waiting list for at least 3 other courses after that. So it's just been absolutely fantastic. On the back of that, we were invited over to sit in the wellness court in Canada and Nova Scotia to watch how they deal with matters, and that's mental health, addiction and trauma. And that was just absolutely fascinating. Couldn't get enough of that. It was one of these days that you just come away from it completely motivated and really wanting to change the world. So we hope we've secured funding. I think we have secured funding to bring them over. The judges, the prosecutor and the defence attorney that have set up the court. So hopefully we'll bring them over to speak to our judiciary. And that's, again, some sort of motivational progress that we've made.
Amazing. Yeah, I watched a little of that. I can't remember where I saw it, somewhere on social media, but it seemed to be a all-encompassing court. So not only the bench and the defence, but the prosecution were on board with it as well, which I did think was incredible.
It was amazing. It was a complete shift in attitudes. So obviously they've got a very similar system to us, an adversarial system, but the prosecutor and the defence attorney, they work in conjunction along with the judge, actually. It was a really nice environment, and they all worked together to get the best possible outcome for the person in the court. So they were asking them how their family were, how their dog was, how they're getting on, how the roof repairs, because last time the roof was leaking and they had to get a new roof. You know, everything. They knew everything about the people, and the people that were coming before them were treated with absolute respect, with empathy. There was real relationships there. One of the girls graduated the program on the day that I sat in, and everyone was completely elated, genuinely delighted for the girl. She turned her life around completely, and just to see that in progress. Obviously we only saw a snapshot, and we saw kind of a very short space of each people's lives, but it was just truly life-changing. It really, really was. And to be able to see how good it works for everyone, I think it would be amazing to have that sort of relationship. We always bang on that relationships are the basis of everything. You have to have connection and relationships to build trust, and to go on to make any sort of difference. And it was absolutely clear that everyone in that court had a really strong trusting relationship.
That's amazing. Well, hopefully we'll hear more about that in the future, and certainly interesting to see if they get the opportunity to come over. I hope that goes well, Melissa.
Thank you.
So Ryan, our third guest, you are well known on social media and you're involved in charitable organisations. You're a public speaker alongside doing media work, and you now have your own YouTube channel, all really inspiring stuff. Can you tell us a bit about more about that in general, and your aims in utilising all this and putting out all this material?
Yes, thanks very much, Edith. Hello, everybody. I guess it kind of started when I was in uni. And sorry, just before I start talking about me, can I just agree that Tommy's article was absolutely inspiring? Like, for somebody who could relate to a lot of those early experiences, and for somebody who's at the most elusive level of our profession, it was great to read that, and I think for years to come that will have a massive impact. So thanks very much. And I'm also massively inspired by what Melissa and Smithy are doing. Yes, I'll answer your question now. So we were at law school, and we were getting people coming in and saying things along the lines of, you need to be aware of the risks of using social media if you want to be a lawyer. You could post something stupid. Don't post anything that's defamatory. It could come back and bite you. Have your privacy settings up to the max, etc. And there was a kind of a traditional view that was coming through that social media posed a bit of a risk for lawyers. And at that time, I was working for a politician. So I was in a world where it was unthinkable not to be on social media and actually not to be active and not to be loud on social media. So there was kind of a caught between two extremes. And I wrestled with it for a long time about should I actually just delete all my social media accounts so that I can try and get a traineeship and it won't be used against me. And I was kind of in two minds, but I thought, look, I know how to use social media professionally. I was helping the politician with her social media presence and trying to engage constituents and people in the local area and stuff. And I thought, I'm actually quite good at this, and this is something that maybe sets me apart from other people. So I'm going to lean into it and just take my chances. And I remember when I was in traineeship interviews and one of the partners, and we had like an assessment day centre thing that most law firms would have, and you have like interviews and presentations and group tasks, etc. And one of the group interviews, one of the partners said, "Oh, I want to talk to you about something that you posted on social media." And I thought, oh well, I should have listened, really taken the advice. But actually, it was Caroline Kelly at Thornton's. Spoiler, they ended up giving me a traineeship. But she said, look, I thought that this was a really good article that you wrote, and I thought this was quite brave that you'd lent your personal experience to talking about a piece of legislation, and it had good legal analysis, and it turned out to be quite good. And that showed me there's maybe a different attitude out there amongst some lawyers. And Caroline is heavily involved in recruiting our trainees, and is somebody with an inspiring background getting into law herself, so she should definitely be a future guest. But like when I got there and into Thornton's, one of my first couple of weeks, Caroline said to me, look, are you interested what the marketing team are doing? Do you want to find out what they're doing on social media? And this just became a thing that they've always been supportive of, and that so my gamble paid off, basically. So I've kind of linked into it, and I've never shut up since on social media. I obviously don't talk about political campaigns as much, but I'm involved in a charity called Who Cares Scotland, who provide advocacy for children who are in the care system and care experienced adults. And by that, I mean people who are taken into kinship care, foster care, looked after at home, residential care, or secure care. And that's what that charity exists to provide. And we've also got influencing and other stuff that we do. So I've saw how they were very effective on social media, and I've lent my voice to some of their campaigns as somebody with that kind of background as well. And it can be really effective. And I would just encourage people to try and think about social media a little bit differently. It can be a drain on your time. It can be a bad impact on society. And we've seen things with Facebook, etc. It's well written and well documented. But actually, if you think about it as a tool and something that you can do to learn and network, it can be really effective. Like, you know, you can go and follow a QC on Twitter. You can go follow Tommy and see what he's working on. You've got direct access to people like yourselves, everybody else on this call. 20 years ago, law students could only dream of that kind of stuff. So I definitely think it's worth doing. And for me, I engaged with the legal profession and built loads of friends and built a network that I find really supportive. You know, people who are engaged in my journey, for want of a better term. That's a bit X Factor, but you know, the progress that I'm making. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it. Obviously, you always have to be careful, but I definitely don't have the traditional view on social media. I hope I've maybe rambled a bit. I don't know if I actually answered the question.
You've not rambled at all, Ryan. You're talking a lot of sense. And I was going to just pick you up on that, because all three of you are active on social media. Melissa, you have a lot to do with your own firm in social media. Tommy, I know, tweets a lot and comments and has a lot of sensible things to say. And Ryan, you as well. You've explained, Ryan, why you're doing it, but Melissa and Tommy, what positives, as Ryan's raised there, do you think there is from social media and using it responsibly?
I'll let Melissa go first.
Thanks, Tommy. I don't really see any downside to it professionally, certainly. I've met people that I would never have met, and if I had met them, I might never have spoken to them. I've met people from other sides of the world. For example, Fritzi Horman, who does the Circle of Trust, she's coming over. We met her through Twitter. Loads of opportunities that I would never, ever have had this been 10 years ago, maybe even 5 years ago, or if I hadn't been on social media. Absolutely. It sounds bizarre, but the group of Trauma Aware Law, we didn't all meet until last summer. And we were sitting in Ian Smith's back garden having some drinks together, and we realised that all of us had never met collectively, and some of us had never met at all. But we'd become firm friends. We'd spent 3 hours 3 times a week together. We'd spent numerous texts, emails, phone calls, as well as all the talks we'd done. And some of us literally had never met face to face. But I mean, it's still, I can't get my head around it. I would not have known these people but for introductions via the internet. So it's absolutely life-changing. And I think if you're not using social media, you're completely mad. You're missing out on so many opportunities.
All right, Tommy, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I think there's been 2 stages for me, because you were brave enough to take the big jump from faculty services with me when we set up Benchmark, and part of the frustration with the old style stable system was twice a year you would go to a meeting with 50 people and they would say, well, what we need to do is this and what we need to do is that. What it really meant is you need to do it, because don't ask me to do anything, you know. And the result was nothing ever get done about anything. So our approach to it was completely different, and the availability of social media was perfect, because we didn't have to have marketing meetings with 10 people on a committee. We just did it, you know, just put something on Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever. But that's how it started. I also did quite a lot of time sitting in committees talking about law reform and, you know, responding to consultation papers and stuff. And I'll tell you, it's hard going, you know, because put 10 lawyers in a room and ask them the same question, you're getting 10 different answers, you know. So it used to just drive me mad. And I've decided now I'm never doing it again. What I'll do is I just respond to it at the time, you know, and quite often, it might start a discussion or at least, you know, people know where I stand on it. And I think I'm also in a kind of privileged position, because I think, and I don't want to be critical of people, but at the moment, the government are obviously in control of giving the jobs out, you know, so to some extent they've got an influence over who becomes a sheriff, who becomes a High Court judge, and it stifles debate. You know, I think people are frightened. People are frightened to say what they think because they might apply to be a sheriff. I'm not applying to be a sheriff or a judge or a prosecutor. I'm not interested. So I can say whatever I want, you know, and within limits. I don't want to get myself in trouble, but I'm not worried. You know, I'm not worried what, as long as it's within proper limits. You know, I'm not really too bothered whether people disagree with me or not, because generally speaking, it's a legal opinion on the basis of my experience.
Yeah. And if you've got that experience, you've got authority to speak on it.
Well,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't talk about, well, I try not to talk about things I know nothing about, which is really a massive area, you know, so it just tends to be sort of criminal justice and, you know, developments in criminal justice. But I'm happy with that, you know, yeah. I'm happy with that.
Absolutely.
So I'm just get a, you know, if you could invent an app that you don't, you know, you can't use it after 7 o'clock on a Friday night, you know, it would be perfect.
I'm just looking at the time, and we've only got about 30 seconds or so to go, and I wanted to finish just with Ryan. I know that you've got a YouTube channel where you've actually been helping trainees and giving tips, which I think is just incredible and a really generous thing to do. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about that before we finish up?
Thanks very much, Edith, for the opportunity for the plug. I will take it gratefully. Thank you. Yeah. So basically, what happened was I reckon that I saw there was a bit of a barney on Twitter about trainees getting charged for careers advice, like commercial awareness boot camps and stuff like that. And most of that stuff was down in England, but people were really angry about it. And one of the things that I experienced when I was at law school is that there are some financial barriers still to becoming a lawyer. To this day, it's still difficult to be a law student sometimes if you come from a non-traditional background. And I thought, well, what can I do that can help the situation? So I thought I'll put out some videos talking about what happened or what worked for me. And if they happen to help people, then good. So I've put out 2 videos so far focusing on traineeships, but I have a few in the pipeline about study tips and exams and networking and all these other things. And if anybody has any ideas for anything that they think I should cover or I should do better, then please just look me up on social media and send me a message.
Brilliant, Ryan. That's a really great initiative. And, I wish I'd had that when I was a law student, because you just go from your lectures and your exams and graduating, and then it's just, there's nothing. And to have that practical advice and just even a point of contact's incredible. So well done. And we wish you all the best with that. So thank you all so much. That has just flown in. The time has disappeared. It's been fantastic. You are all very welcome to stay on. And we've got Ali coming up next. He's going to be telling us a bit about Hey Legal. He's the founder of Hey Legal, and he's going to be discussing new content that's going to be available to lawyers, including free CPD. But for now, we will take a short break. So thank you all so much for your time. It's been really interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. I wasn't sure who was going to pop up there, but it's Ali himself. So as I said, the founder of Hey Legal. Hello, Ali.
Hi, Edith. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good, thank you. I'm good. I feel as though I have intruded in what was a brilliant conversation there with so much more to cover.
Yep.
The guests are still here. If any of them would like to come back on now for a chat, then they can. I'd be delighted if they wish to do so, but just let me know in the private chat. But all good. That was a great conversation.
It really was, wasn't it? As you say, we could have talked for so much longer, but time is limited on these things. But
Yeah.
really, really interesting and really important things that all 3 guests were talking about there. So you've popped on. Usually you're behind the scenes and you don't show your face on this often. So we thought we would have you on just so you can talk us through really an update on Hey Legal, what's happening, what's to come. So what's new?
Well, what's new? Well, yeah, I have to say I do much prefer being behind the camera rather than having to actually front up and participate. I was going to ask Melissa if that was a works event that the Trauma Aware Lawyers Group were having with the drinks in the Smithy's back garden, and we'll find out more about that when the Sue Gray report comes out, no doubt. Yeah, so with Hey Legal, well, I mean, it fits with the topics that were being discussed tonight, really, where we're obviously creating content to try to do different things. There's obviously a bit of a revolution going on. 20 or so years ago, this type of thing just was not able to be done, but now we can record content like this, put it out live on the internet, involve all sorts of different people. So in Hey Legal, I think one of the first things I wanted to cover, just to bring to people's attention, was about the interview that you did with Lady Dorian. Mm-hmm. So that fits obviously with Melissa's work and Ryan's work. In fact, I'm going to bring them back into this. I hope I'm not getting into trouble here for doing so, but they're back on. They're back on. Yes, we did that interview, and that's available in the Criminal Law channel, and obviously give some guidance around that from the bench as regards what has been introduced. So, did you find that helpful, Melissa?
Yeah, I was that. Obviously, I was like hanging on her every word, waiting for her to make some big revelation about how this is the biggest thing she's ever read in her life. She didn't quite go there, but it was good enough for me. It was great to see that. Hopefully, that's the judiciary understanding, and hopefully going to apply the sentencing guidelines. So that was a really good resource, and I think it was very well watched, Edith. As lawyers, we've not really had any real guidance or training apart from kind of our rambling talks. So that video, to have a proper legal professional talk about it, was really helpful.
That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Great. No, thanks. So that's it's been great to get that access, and obviously just some insight from the bench in relation to these matters. The other thing is Shaping Your Success channel that we've launched with Hey Legal, which is a very exciting for us, which is a joint venture with the Law Society. So trying to get very different types of content to come in, people that we maybe normally wouldn't have as guests. So we had Baroness Helena Kennedy as one of the guests this month. We had a very interesting interview with a US attorney, Ken Freiberg, who was, I need to get his title correct here, Special Master of the US Government's September 11th Compensation Fund. And he, in his interview, talks about the challenges around that, and such were they that there, in fact, was a movie where he's depicted by, or portrayed by, Michael Keaton, no less, so an Oscar-winning actor, I think, and that's on Netflix. And he, within his interview, talks about how he manages to deal with very traumatic work, but also find a balance. So there's that. And we had an interview with Gary Galland, who's the founder and CEO of a very interesting law firm called Radar. So that's all available on the Law Society's on website. So I would really recommend to everyone that you register for that. You can watch it for free. It is free CPD. And I think crucial to it, a bit like Hey Legal, is the hope that people will put forward suggestions of the type of work or the type of topics that they wish covered. You know, Ryan and Melissa, you were referencing maybe about, content creation. It's great to have campaigns and things that you want to promote and have the ability to amplify the message through social, but there's also the challenge of actually creating that content, and maybe that's something we're going to look at as well and try to do that. So really, that's mostly what's going on in Hey Legal. I hope people are enjoying the content. I mean, I should say that the sponsors that we have of the channel are an immense help, because there is a lot of effort put in place to try to create this content. We hope it gets a good audience, but really, Denovo, Workflow, Cashroom, and Bundle Docs, they really help us by providing resource. So if people can use them, please do, because it would help everything. So really, that's the update on Hey Legal, Edith. I hope that's of interest.
Absolutely.
I think. Sorry.
I was just going to say, good to see you making an appearance as well, because you tend to hide behind the scenes. But
yeah. Well, I have to, in fact, and this is an appeal, in fact, and Ryan is definitely going to help going forward in relation to this, but I'm tremendously keen not to feature in anything, if possible, viewing figures in mind, interest in mind for people. So the more people who would like to get involved, the better, in terms of actually coming onto the platform and creating content. We do have a very active YouTube channel. It gets a lot of views in relative terms for the legal sector. So when we create content, it doesn't just disappear. It sits on the channel and people will watch it over time. So it is worth doing. So anyone who's interested at all, please get in touch. We'd be delighted for them to be involved.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's right. And we're trying to encourage people to utilize this platform rather than do the traditional go to a CPD Saturday morning. Nobody can be bothered actually being there. Nobody really maybe even knows what the topic is, just to tick a box. It's really to encourage people to get involved, enjoy it, and actually learn from it. So
it's a community space. Hopefully that's really what we're after, is that it just becomes a platform that people use, and they use it for campaigns. And I know there's your own channels, but it's also maybe a place that people might just drop into and check out what's here, and that would be really great.
Definitely. All right. Well, Ali, thank you. We're going to have another short break, and then I'm going to be joined by nutritionist Natalie Blue, the nutrition stylist, and I'm sure a lot of people will be following her on her platforms. I know Melissa does. And so we're going to be talking about nutrition for busy professionals. So again, Ryan, Melissa, please stay around. Ali as well. I know you're highly into your nutrition, but we'll bring you back.
Very much. Well, I may disappear right now, but Ryan and Melissa, no doubt, will stay and they can add their thoughts. Nutrition for busy lawyers. I'm a veteran of the canteen at Glasgow Sheriff Court, and I've lived to tell the tale. But I'm hoping that things are better these days. Okay, so thank you very much all, and I will play this now.
Hello, and Natalie, you've now joined us. We've got Melissa
Hi.
and Ryan still on. How are you, Natalie?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you so much for joining us. With Melissa and Ryan have been on talking about very interesting topics, and are really keen to hear what you've got to say as well. So we've asked you on just to give us some tips for busy lawyers. But before we get into that, can you explain a bit about how you got into nutrition and what sparked that interest?
Yeah, so basically I started off in I was a dancer and I was in the fitness industry, and I discovered that my main interest was actually nutrition rather than the fitness side of things. So I used to have juice bars in Glasgow and then sort of UK wide. And then I came up with the idea of the nutrition stylist. The reason being, I don't find that nutrition's kind of one size fits all. It's for each person's totally individual. So hence the reason nutrition stylist. It's we don't all suit the same clothes, and it's the same with eating. So obviously yourselves, every work lifestyle and everybody's different basically. So yeah, that's where that kind of all comes from.
Okay, so
And
kind of tailoring different nutrition programs for different people, different lifestyles kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. And also just trying to get people away from things like diets. I'm not a calorie counter. I'm not a diet person. It's about educating yourself and putting goodness into your body and knowing that it's actually okay to have a bit of what you fancy as well. I'm quite big on balance.
Okay, well, that sounds good. I think though that Ryan and Melissa, and I'm not saying them in any way, but they will know lawyers who, and maybe have been there themselves like me, where you're running around, you might be in the middle of a trial or just running around crazy, and trying to find something even remotely healthy is impossible. So very often lawyers are just running out to grab any kind of food to keep them going, some sort of fuel to eat at their desk or to throw down their throat before they get back into court. Have you got any kind of tips of how, if they've got limited choices, how they might tailor their diet to include some healthy choices?
I would definitely go for prepping. So even if it's the night before's dinner, batch cooking. If you're busy, batch cook sauces, batch cook things like crustless quiches. There's loads of things you can do, and then take it with you the next day. That's
Right.
probably the easiest way. Then you know what you're eating, because it isn't that easy to get things on the go. So that would be my main thing, is to
Right.
prep your food. It saves you time and hassle as well. It seems like, oh no, I've got to make this and that, but it's probably the easiest thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
So
And it's
that's
there,
where
and
I
it's
would
taking
start.
it.
That's
Yeah,
it. Take it with you. And cold, you don't need to heat these things. There's loads of different things. Like if you MDs on my page, you'll see I do like salads and stuff, but they're a wee bit more interesting than your basic salad. You can add tuna and chicken and all sorts of things to them, and all you do the next day is you make it for your dinner that night, stick it in a Tupperware, and take it with you the next day.
Mhm.
That's
See,
what I would say.
okay, I'm one of these people that couldn't eat, for example, like cold, something that's cold but should be hot, like chili or lasagna or something. I couldn't eat that cold, but I know that people can, and you can make healthy options. But I'm thinking, even, I mean, are there any kind of healthy options? Say you're traveling and the only option is like a petrol station. Is there anything in a petrol station that you could say, actually, that would keep you going? It's healthier than, stopping at McDonald's or something like that.
Honestly, no. To be honest, I've seen this. It's got anything. I know some petrol stations do fruit, but
Mhm.
other than that, no. Because the sandwiches and things, if you even look at them, their expiry date's like quite a long way down the line and stuff. So
Yeah.
no, if I'm honest, I mean, you don't need. The thing is, a lot of these things are enjoyable cold, but the other thing is, get a flask with soup.
Mhm. Yeah. So there are
That's it.
workarounds.
You can, yeah, there's also all these little tubs you can buy now that are thermal that you can cook and put things in. It's probably the easiest way to, I mean, you could go somewhere and get a baked potato, ask for nothing, and take your own little salad with it or something. That's
Mhm.
another option. But there is a few places about that have good things. I mean, that one of the things as well is the in-house nutritionist for Juicy, which they've got Byers Road, and they've got Silverburn. That's not handy for everyone. You can get stuff in advance. There is a few other places that sell slightly healthier options, but when labels and stuff say 0 sugar or less than this, it really doesn't give an indication to actually what's in it, because a lot of these foods are filled with chemicals, which you also don't want to have. And that's
Right.
something else I'm quite big on, is sort of reducing inflammation in the body. You want to do that as well as increase energy, and you also want to give the gut, like look after your gut. So yeah, if I'm honest, to try and pick up stuff on the go is really, really hard for people, because there's not actually a huge option.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen myself convincing myself that some chicken tenders at a McDonald's was actually quite healthy. And then I realized that there are more carbs in those than there are protein. And that gave me a bit of a shock. I'm
Yeah,
going
a
to
lot of
bring, yeah. Yeah. So you're saying look at the labels, or sometimes even the labels can be deceiving, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to bring Ryan and Melissa in, because I'm sure they will have. Well, I actually don't know what their nutrition background. I think Melissa did a bit of juicing, but Ryan, how would you describe your kind of diet, your nutrition? Are you one of these people who plans and preps, or what kind of things do you do?
I'm conscious that I can't lie, because my girlfriend will probably be watching this, and I'll probably comment. If I do prep, it's usually my girlfriend that preps for me, which I'm very grateful for. But yeah, I try and do that, but I have to say that it's difficult. See, if you're sitting working from home and you're at your desk for 10 hours a day, I stay across the road basically from a retail park, which has got McDonald's, Starbucks, KFC. And I remember at New Year, one of my things was I wanted to look at my budgeting and spending. And I downloaded an app that showed you how much money you'd spent in Uber Eats for the last 6 months. And that was honestly sickening amount of money. And I was like, no. So I'm not actually as good as I tell myself, but I'm trying to be better. And obviously Natalie's tips are very useful. I don't know about you, Melissa.
Yeah.
So now I'm uber healthy. I became vegan about 3 years ago, and gradually that led me into basically a really healthy diet. So now I really limit what I eat. I eat mostly raw food. I try not to. I drink water or herbal teas with occasional coffee, because I couldn't probably survive without a black coffee. But generally I don't eat sugar, and I don't eat any processed foods at all. I take my lunch to work with me every day. I've got a rice cooker that is literally on 24/7, because it's on after my dinner to cook the next day's lunch, and it's on when I come in from work to cook my dinner. So I usually have kind of a brown rice, tofu, and some raw vegetables. So, but prior to that, before turning vegan, that kind of led me into a really kind of interesting kind of journey, I suppose, on what I'm eating and what I'm putting in my body. But before that, I was cappuccino, chocolate bar and Diet Coke, and then something really unhealthy for my dinner, because literally as a lawyer you don't have time. But now I just have my wee lunch and I eat that as I'm doing my emails. So definitely, but I don't know if that's an age thing, because I'm 37 now, and you know, I want to look after myself and my skin and my hair as well. But when I was younger, terrible, particularly when I was working as a lawyer, a younger lawyer, I would say my diet was terrible. But now it's pretty healthy.
Yeah. So you spoke about sugar, Natalie, and Melissa's also mentioned that she's cut that out because that is a real inflammatory substance, and it's, you know, and people have known for a long time sugar's not good for you. But can you tell us a bit more about what sugar does to your body?
So yeah, the thing as well is what people are kind of misled with a lot of brands is that you don't know how much sugar's in there, and a lot of people don't take the time to sort of break down and read the labels. So yeah, sugar, it can cause a lot of problems, and if you're having mainly that in your diet, as we know, if you have sugar, it gives you that quick hit. Which, see what you were saying, Melissa, about the coffee and the Diet Coke. I also at one point was that person. Again, I'm older now. I've really looked at things in my diet. Obviously, I don't always practice what I preach, but I generally I think it becomes like a lifestyle thing, and you do start to make like sort of avoidance of certain foods. So yeah, if you have sugar, you'll slump. It increases inflammation in the body. It comes just with, it's pointless. And I always tell, so if I have any nutrition clients, one of the main things I'll always say to them is, when you go to eat something, is there a point to it? And it sounds really simple, but if you look at something, what you're saying again, Melissa, about like the raw food, of course there is. You're going to get loads of really good raw nutrition, and that's what your cells and your body needs. A lot of us eating, it's not anybody's fault. It's because we're not always educated and taught on it. We're taking things we think are healthy, and they're actually not causing us, you know, a great level of nutrition, and they are packed with, like I said, the sugars and things that are actually going to raise inflammation levels in the body and make us in turn ill and unwell.
Yeah. And I think maybe not so much now with lockdown and changes, but there still are canteens in courts, and very often, you know, and they have certainly tried to be a bit more healthy. So there will be kind of sandwiches freshly made and some salad options, but you're still seeing, is it Curry Thursday that used to be at Glasgow Sheriff? I can't remember, like the kind of bright yellow curry with rice and the obligatory chips on the side, sausage rolls, things like that. You know, these things are still being offered. So I suppose it's difficult for lawyers as well, unless they're doing the prep beforehand, to not be tempted, or just through convenience, to go for these kind of options. I mean, again, with the sugar and the highs and the lows, with a kind of carb heavy stodgy meal like that, that's not going to help folk, is it, Natalie, for their afternoon course?
No, because it's also going to give you brain fog. It's going to give you, it's going to make you, once you go up, you have to come back down. And that's when you then reach for the chocolate. It's just like a knock-on effect. And you get another bit of sugar to keep you going from the last slump. And I know a lot of people do think, oh, I can't be bothered, but, you know, making something for the next day. But I'm sure, as Melissa's probably learned, see, once it becomes a habit, it's so much, it's actually easier, because you can bulk and batch cook loads of things. And yeah, and the fact that you feel better as well. I mean, I'm really sensitive to certain foods now. Like I don't want to eat them, and there's a lot, again, people, once you kind of retrain yourself, and I don't mean retrain in a military way, because you should have a bit of what you fancy, but if you can just get into your head, right, what's this going to do? Is this nourishing? Is this going to keep me energized? And actually, a lot of, you know, healthier options, they'll keep you going much better through the day. And hydration is really important as well. Loads and loads of water. Keep drinking constantly, as much water as you can. That's going to give you the best performance, you know, brain wise, rather than having the kind of coffee and the diet or even full fat drinks that a lot of people reach for.
Yeah, absolutely. And very often that is what keeps lawyers going, coffee and Diet Coke. You see them strewn about the common rooms. But if so, as you're saying, Natalie, it is about getting into that kind of zone, preparing, and I think once you see the benefits of healthy eating and nutrition, then that's the kind of incentive to keep going. What about if someone is interested on doing, for example, a kind of a juicing, not a juicing fast, but doing a juicing program for a period of days or even a day? Can you talk about the benefits of that for us?
Yeah, so again, I don't like diets, so that's not when I obviously had my own juice business and now I'm involved with Juicy. One of the things with juicing is it has been shown that it's very good to change your mindset. So a lot of people will do like 3-day cleanses and think, oh, I'm going to do this and then I can't wait till day 3 and I'm going to have this, and you really don't want it. When you're cleansing, your digestive system's getting a complete break. There's different ways of juicing. You can just include them into your diet. If you can have any raw juice, it's a plus. You know, you're not going to go wrong. But with the likes of a cleanse, normally it's very good to kickstart. So if you can have a 3-day juice cleanse, which I know again when people are busy and they're on the go, it can be quite hard and it can be daunting, but it's actually easy because you've got them there ready and available to drink. But there's loads of benefits. It can be tough while you're doing it, but the end of it is you have good sleeps while you're doing it because you've eliminated all the sort of toxins and usual things that you put in your body. So most people find they sleep really well. You also, I don't know, you're ready, you want to keep going with the goodness because you know what you're putting in your body. And like I said, total break for your digestive system, and it is a really good way if you're wanting to change your lifestyle. And again, one of the other things I'd say to anybody that's wanting to make changes is don't give yourself a hard time and do everything at once. Don't just go, right, that's it, I'm not having this, that, the next thing. It needs to be baby steps, as in with anything. But if you can just make a couple of changes over time, it becomes much easier.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I bought a juicer I think it was last year, and I got really into it and I was making my juice every morning, and then I just got fed up because the amount of fruit, or not so much fruit, it was more veg with a little bit of fruit. So that was but I had Juicy juices last week, and I must say they are incredible. I was looking at it thinking, is this got added sugar in it or something? Because it was so pleasant to drink. But just really good quality. So I can say that, I'll definitely be going back to Juicy. Ryan, is that something that appeals to you, a juice cleanse or even just incorporating juices? Have you tried juicing before?
No, I have a NutriBullet, but I usually make just protein shakes in it. But yeah, right. No, I need to get myself down. I'm in Glasgow anyway, so I'll need to go down and try it out, definitely.
Yeah. And the food looks amazing in there too.
Yeah, the food's good, but it's just nice to be able to have more options now as well, because for a long time people have been restricted, and like you said, juicing's great, and if you've got the time to clean up the mess, it's fine. But even now, like, I trained my boyfriend, and now he makes the juices. If we ever have them and we've not got them from Juicy, then I'll be like, no, you can just make them, or because I can't deal with the juicer afterwards.
Yeah. I get that. It's quite a hassle. So and people will say, oh, but they're a $5 for a juice. But actually, when you think of how much goes into that one juice, that is a pretty reasonable price. And what else would you spend a $5 on? You know, you'd be.
There's a lot of people that have different kind of arguments, and just as a nutritionist, you see it all the time that people will be like, oh, the juice diets, and they can be ridiculed. But the way I look at it is, especially as a nation, the UK, we struggle to meet our 5 a day, and we struggle to have a good diet. There is different levels you can take nutrition to, but I would say in this country especially, just starting with a couple of juices is great. It's so beneficial. You can go to complete extremes and just have alkaline juice and don't have, fruit in it, but it's about getting people just used to changing and again breaking habits, and it's got to be what you enjoy as well. There's no point living a life of misery and eating and drinking stuff that you don't like.
Yeah, absolutely, Natalie. I think that's it. It's balanced, but trying to do the best and making good choices. Well, listen, thank you so much, Natalie. That's been really interesting. I'm sure, well, Melissa, you sound as if you got the perfect nutrition as it is. Ryan,
try.
The only
Ryan,
thing
you're
I'm Melissa, is I hope you're taking. Do you take some supplements?
I try and take vitamin D, B12, and that's about it. But I know I should take more. It's just
And
I hate taking tablets. I know it's terrible, but I know I do need
liquid
to.
days as well.
Oh, that'd be better for me. I'll Google that now.
Well, that's been so interesting. Again, we could have spoken all night on this, but Natalie, thank you so much for
No
giving up your
problem.
time. And we have learned a lot from you tonight, and we will no doubt see you again. And time is now up. So can I just thank everyone for joining in tonight, for everyone who's been watching, and for everyone who's going to be watching on this recorded Hey Legal Social. Thank you again to our sponsors. And we hope we've enjoyed it. I'm sure you have. I don't think you could have failed not to. And we will see you again soon. So thank you once again, everyone, and take care and good night.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye. Bye.